ranking every enemy in lethal company based on how scary it is. Starting off with Baboon Hawk, this guy is an easy D. He'll really only pose a threat if there's multiple, and most of the time there's not, so most of the time you're just going to be perfectly fine and you can just ignore him. Apparently if they stand up all the way, they're as tall as 8 feet, which I mean could be scary, but they are hunched back every single time you see them in game. And it says there can be a pack that's up to 18 Baboon Hawks, but I'm pretty sure this is just lore and not actual gameplay. Moving on, I put the Bracken at B. This guy is pretty scary, but he's not as scary as some of the other ones for one reason. When he sees you, he doesn't immediately come at you. Instead, you can scare him off by looking at him. He is scary, however, because sometimes you can only see his eyes, and he will sneak up on you, snap your neck, and then move you to a different place, which admittedly is pretty scary, especially for something that gets scared easily. The Bunker Spider is another B tier for me. Again, this guy can be scary, but he has a lot of weaknesses. First off, he is very common, so you're probably going to learn how to play against him pretty quickly, and you can kill him with a shovel pretty easily as long as you don't mess up. These guys are also very loud, and you'll be able to hear their footsteps pretty easily if there's one near you. And there will also be spiderwebs if there is a bunker spider, so if they kill you, then they make you into a web cocoon, and if your teammate sees that, then it could be pretty scary. But since these guys are so common, I think B tier is the best place for them to go. Circuit bees are not scary at all, but they are really annoying. They'll be around hives, and if you take the hives, they are worth a lot of money, but the only issue is that the bees don't really want you to take their home, so they're going to attack you, and they can cause some really big problems if you're not careful, which it is really hard to be careful with these guys. But you're never actually going to be scared of them, you're just going to be, again, annoyed. Coil Heads have one of the freakiest designs in this entire game. If this thing was in real life, I don't think I'd want to live. Now these guys are actually kind of easy to manage. If they see you, they're going to run after you, but if you look at them, they're not really going to do much. However, if one spots you and you're not looking at it, you are not going to have a very good time, and you're probably going to have a very quick death. It is possible to escape them by just looking at them the entire time and then leaving, but otherwise these guys are freaky enough to make it into A tier. So this was kind of hard to decide, but I put the worms in C. In my opinion, these guys aren't really scary, they're more of kind of cool. If you hear them, then you get like a 1 billion-second head start to run out of there so he doesn't kill you. And then when he jumps out of the sand, you're not really scared by it, you're just like, oh, that's cool. So this guy isn't really an oh no factor as like some of the other enemies in this game are, which is why I don't think he's that scary. The dogs are one of the scariest enemies in this game, and you can't change my mind. They can't see you, which may make them sound kind of vulnerable, but they can hear very, very well. And if they hear you, you're basically 100% dead. Also, they can go inside of your ship and kill everyone. And there can be like multiple of them around you at the same time. It's just awful. These guys are awful. I hate them. I hate everything about them. I hate him with all my heart. Another one of the scariest enemies in this game is the forest giant. And again, it's pretty easy to see why. This guy spawns at night with forest type moons, so it's really hard to see him. It's basically like he can see you, but you can't see him. But you can hear him, and he has really intimidating footsteps. And unless you're really close to your ship, you can't outrun this guy, and he's going to kill you. One thing I do find interesting is when this guy swallows you, he's actually not trying to hurt you. Instead, he has the mindset of like a toddler, so he's putting you in your mouth like a toddler would. So in reality, they're just trying to be friends, but they're a little too rough. They still are really scary though. You can't change my mind. I put the Hoarder Bug at D. This guy's more funny than scary, and it is my favorite enemy in the game for that. They're really easy to kill, they're really common, you're not going to be having very much trouble with this. If you drop something, then he'll stop attacking you and then you can take it later. He's just not very hard to deal with, and he's more funny than scary. There's no way anyone in the entire world is scared of a hygro deer. These guys are like big slimes that travel 1 mile per 100 years. They move so slow. It's to the point where you see one and you don't really care. They're not scary looking, they don't do anything particularly scary. They're just kind of there, and that's it. I think it's fair to say that the Jesters are pretty scary. When I first saw one, I wasn't too scared because it wasn't doing anything. In fact, I thought it was friendly until it wasn't friendly anymore. These guys give you a really long time before they start attacking you, so if you're near the entrance, it's not really a big deal. But if you find one and you're lost in the map, then he is really horrifying. I put the Mimic in A tier. On one hand, I could see him not being very scary at all because he's not that hard to deal with and you can run away from him pretty easily. But on the other hand, if you don't recognize him immediately, he is actually pretty terrifying. So I do have to give him that. It really just depends on the situation. I do think he should have a buff in how powerful he is though. The Nutcracker is another S tier. This guy's really difficult and really easy to deal with at the same time. Every single time you see him, you want a shotgun, but it is really difficult to get a shotgun, especially because when you run into this guy, you're most likely on a planet with a bunch of other enemies as well that will probably try to kill you while you're trying to kill the Nutcracker. So this guy is very difficult to deal with, and if you can't see what you're doing, you might as well just already be dead. The Snare Flee is another easy C tier. This guy is one of those enemies that's more annoying than scary, kind of like the circuit bees, except he can be scary because he can catch you off guard, but as soon as you notice what's happening, you're just kind of mad because there's really nothing you can do unless your friend is with you and he specifically has a shovel. So this is going to make my life a little bit harder now that I'm going back to edit and actually finish this video. Apparently, I thought that the Spore Lizard on this list was the Thumper, but the Thumper isn't actually on this list, but the Spore Lizard is. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a PNG over the Spore Lizard so you guys can think it is the Thumper. And at the very end, I'll do the same thing, but with the Spore Lizard, and we'll talk about him too. So moving on, the Thumper is an A tier. This guy is common, but he's not very easy to learn to play against. He's very fast, and if he's chasing you, that might as well just give you a heart attack. He's very powerful, and he's very difficult to kill. The only thing really holding him back from S tier is that he is so common, which I don't really have an issue with. He's still the scariest common enemy you're gonna see. But that's the only reason he isn't an S tier and he's an A tier instead. The Spore Lizard is actually a D. Now granted, I've only actually ran into this guy one time. They will attack if they're threatened, but just don't threaten them and you'll be perfectly fine. I just wish that they were more common because I will give them that their design is actually a little scary. It's just that they're so shy that you'll barely ever see them, so you'll never really be scared of them, and you'll immediately know where they are because they blow a bunch of pink dust. I still don't know why they do this. And now we're at the end of the video, and that is my entire ranking for how scary each enemy is in Lethal Company. So let me know what you think in the comments below, what you agree with and what you disagree with, and yeah, bye.